Good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming along tonight to our webinar to talk about general practice nursing in Wales. First off, we'll have a welcome from our Executive Director, Helen Wiley.
Good evening, Noswaith Da. Welcome everybody to this evening's seminar. I'm Helen Wiley, Director of RCN Wales, and I'm really sorry that I'm not with you in person this evening, but I was delighted to be asked to record a welcome for you. The purpose of this webinar this evening is to update members on the Welsh Government's announcement that they accepted the Doctor and Dentist Review Body recommendation of a 6% pay rise for GPs and practice staff, and this included salaried GPs, GP partners and all other practice staff, including practice nurses. We wanted to make sure that you are fully up to date as to where this announcement is at the current time, so that you can ask questions, seek clarification and any support you may need if you have not received this pay uplift. We're delighted that we will have a presentation today from Frances Baverstock, who's a lead nurse in primary care, and she's going to tell us all about her experience of being active and on the forum of the RCN General Practice Nursing Forum. I know you're really going to enjoy hearing from Frances. And then there'll be an opportunity for a discussion so that you can make sure that your voice is heard and tell us what more you might need from RCN Wales. I know you'll find the webinar interesting, and I'm really sorry not to be with you. And I do hope that for many of you, this is the start of you being more active in the Royal College of Nursing. So have a really good webinar and enjoy yourselves. Thank you very much indeed. Noswaith Da, diolch yn fawr iawn.
Thank you, Helen, for your welcome address. And I'm sure Helen would have wanted to be here if she could have possibly been here. My name is Nikki Hughes. I'm Associate Director for the Royal College of Nursing in Wales for the Employment Relations side of the house. And I'm really delighted today to be here to chair this meeting so that you get as much out of this meeting as you possibly can. So please ask lots of questions. We've got the respect charter there. It's something that we share at every meeting, every webinar we go to, just to remind people that we're in a safe space here. People can ask the questions that they want, share opinions. Everybody's opinion is really important, but that we respect each other and that we're kind to each other, even if maybe somebody's opinion or question isn't quite what we would have asked ourselves. Just a gentle reminder. So I'd like to just say about the IT. So you may have noticed we are recording this session this evening, and it will be going out on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, and also on social media. So we'll be cutting it up into bits. So we hopefully, if you or your colleagues, if you want to watch it back, or if you want to tell your colleagues about it who maybe can't make it tonight, then they'll have another chance or multiple chances to be able to watch that. We also have a chat function. So if you go to the top of your screen to the Q&A bar, then you will be able to post questions in there. And when it comes to the Q&A with our very experienced panel, then I'll be able to ask them the questions that are most meaningful for you. So please get involved. That's the most important. So I'm going to, after I've sort of spoken now, I'm going to hand over to Kelly, who's going to give you an update on the pay. And then there'll be a chance for you to ask any questions you want through the Q&A function. Following that, Frances, who you've already had introductions, will be joining us to talk about the GPM forum. And then Magella is going to talk to us about how you can have your voice heard moving forward. So we've got Kelly, who's our pay and terms and conditions delivery lead. We've got Frances Baverstock, who's lead nurse for primary care in Betsy Cadwallader UHB. And we've got Magella Kavanagh, who's our RCN independent sector and community advisor. So without further ado, what I'd like to do is pass over to Kelly so that she can make sure that the details of the pay award are shared.
Thanks, Nikki, and good evening, everyone. On January the 31st, Jeremy Miles, the Cabinet Secretary for Health and Social Care, announced that Welsh Government will announce 52.1 million into general practice. This was to meet the Doctors and Dentists Review Body, the DDRB's recommendation of a 6% pay uplift to GP element of the contract. Now, since 2020, Welsh Government has been providing funding to enable the same uplift to be awarded to all practice staff. This equates to 12.7 million, which will support staff pay expenses. To support the GPs, an additional £23 million was made available in 24-25 as a one-off payment. And this is for practice stabilisation payment. This money was to enable practices to choose whether they applied a discretionary uplift to other members of staff to account for a band inflation effect. I think this is important to sort of relay to you as GPNs, because in Wales we have 371 general practices run by partners, with 19 run by local health boards. So without the funding and the strategy the way it is, every practice we would have to negotiate on a practice by practice basis on pay. So this funding and the way it's done allows for the pay to be done across Wales. So since 2020, staff pay uplifts for all practice staff have been funded through the GMS contract, and it is a requirement of the Statement of Financial Entitlement, the SFE, for practices to sign a declaration form to confirm they've passed this uplift on to their staff. Now, if you have attended any of the previous GPN webinars that have been held in England, you will know that your colleagues in England haven't got this protection there. There is no requirement in England to complete a statement of financial entitlement or a declaration form to prove that any pay uplifts have been passed to the staff. So in Wales, we have got that extra protection, which they are fighting for in England. Now, since 2020, the staff uplift increases have been, so in 2020 to 2021, it was 2.8%. 21 to 22, it was 3%. 22 to 23, 4.5%. 23 to 24 was 5% increase, and 24 to 25 was a 6% increase. Now, a failure on the practices to pay this will result, or should have resulted, in a clawback by the local health board's partnership board. Now, the reason why we wanted to have this webinar in Wales was to make sure that members actually have received these increases in the last 5 years, because the only way we can find that information out as the RCN is if our members tell us. Now, my understanding is, and I think Nikki, you would probably agree with this, we don't have many calls from the GPN saying they haven't received a pay increase, but it is important to know that this is what you were entitled to, and if you haven't had these increases over the last 5 years, what you can do about it as individuals. The 6% increase should have been received in wages, we believe, in February and March. It shouldn't really be any later, but if there are, there should be discussions with you if these are going to be any later. These are backdated to April 24, and the increase was made to the 6%. If anybody was increased previously this year from April 2024 onwards under 6%, it needs to be topped up. So if the employer was giving you provisional payment to say a 4% increase, you need to get that extra 2% increased up to 6%. If anybody's received a payment over 6%, well done for negotiating over 6%. We wouldn't expect the employer to claw that back from you. But again, there may be individuals who have been in receipt of an increase above 6%, and again, all well and good to you, but the max is 6% from the Welsh Government funding. If you have not received a 6% increase in the February-March pay, you may want to wait until the April, just in case, or speak to your employer to find out why you haven't received that. But on the RCN website, I've created a template letter for members that if your employer hasn't implemented the pay increase, that you can, I would first say, obviously, have a conversation with the practice manager, the partners, and find out why. However, we have put a template letter on the website. If members feel that's the easiest way to do this, then by all means use the template letter and contact your partners, the employer, to find out why you haven't received the pay increase. It is important that if our members haven't been receiving these increases over the years, that they need to contact us and tell us why. Have a conversation with us. Let us know what has been happening in the practice, because this has been funded over the last 5 years. These increases have been there. Okay. Again, we haven't had these concerns raised with us by our members, but that may be because you was not aware of what you were entitled to. My hope is payments have been made and everybody is in receipt of these increases, and this is not an issue. But we felt it important, because of the webinars that have been held in England, that if any of our members in Wales have been attending these, there could be some confusion, and we wanted to make sure that our members in Wales were fully aware of the entitlements and fully aware of how and what to do if they weren't. So thank you, Nikki. That is a brief update on the pay, but again, if anybody wants to speak to me or get in contact, more than happy to discuss with people and visit the practices if need be. Thank you, Nikki.
Lovely, thank you for that, Kelly. That was really comprehensive and really gave us an idea of what you should have been looking for in your pay packets. I suppose one of the things in my head, which might be worth just covering, is people ask us, well, you know, the NHS staff get their pay award, and then why don't GPNs just get the same pay award? And unfortunately, at the moment, there is two different systems for negotiating pay. So for the NHS, it tends to be the pay review body that Welsh Government send a remit letter to, and it's for them, who are supposedly independent, to make a recommendation to the government on what is appropriate, taking into account the current climate, the current pressures in the NHS, and the current financial issues. And then they will announce to the Welsh Government, we're expecting it actually in May this year, what their recommendations are, and then the government decides whether they keep that or not. Now, for you as GPNs, as most of your employers are actually independent companies, there is a different process, and your pay gets negotiated as part of the GMS overall negotiations. So when they go around the table, the local medical council go around the table with Welsh Government, then they will be and trade unions, then they will be negotiating that whole contract. So what are we going to pay people for certain services? As you know, GPs are paid per patient population, and they look at the whole contract, and as part of that, then they will negotiate pay. Unfortunately, to date, because it's the wider GMS contract negotiations, we haven't been able to get around that table. So it's led, the negotiations are currently led by GPC Wales, and they are the ones that lead the conversation from a trade union point of view. We have tried and will continue to try to, even if we can be in the room and be observers, we are trying to become involved in that. But at this point in time, because it's the wider service negotiation that they're having, they didn't feel that we had a place at that table. But I do meet with them on a regular basis, and I do obviously make sure that they have the needs of our GPN staff in their forefront of their mind when they're going in to negotiate, and that actually, with parity, anything that a GP gets in terms of a pay award should then be passed on to the staff, including you as GPNs. So there's a slightly different way, or there is a different way that GPN pay and practice pay is decided rather than the NHS. So unfortunately, when the NHS comes out in June, you may not see yours till later in the year, because the negotiation cycle usually starts in the summer for the GMS contract. So I hope that helps. So I'd like to invite our panel members back. So we've got Kelly, we've got Francis, and we've got Magella to answer some questions. We haven't yet got any questions from our audience tonight, but please feel free to put something in the chat. We will, Nia, I can see that you've put a question in. Yes, of course, we can, Abigail will be able to put an email, either Kelly's or myself, so that you can contact us about a confidential advice, and then we can advise you whether that needs to go through our RCN Direct, where it would then become a case. So by all means, Abigail, put mine or Kelly's RCN email in the chat. That's absolutely fine. So we did have a couple of questions before we started from people that we've been speaking to over time. So I'm going to ask a couple of those first. So I think, Kelly, if you could answer this one. I know you've already touched on it, but what do our GPNs do if they haven't received the pay award? How can they make their voice heard?
Okay, so what I would first recommend any member do in any situation where you haven't received a pay award that was, contracted or negotiated. In the first instance, I would always say speak to your direct line manager, speak to your employer, whether it's a partner, whether it's a practice manager. Have that conversation first. Ask to arrange a private meeting and say, we've got the evidence for you, and it's duly available online. The information is there. There should not be a reason why the employers are not paying this, because it is funded. The funding should be there for you. But if you haven't received, like I say, have a conversation with the employer to find out the reasons why. It may be the fact that the way that the payroll is done, it's not going to come in until April, but you need the assurance it's going to be backdated. If there is any challenge to this, and again, looking back at the payments you've had over the last 5 years, if you've been there for that length of time, if there is a lack of payment in any of the previous years, and for some reason you're not having this, the employer hasn't agreed to pay, what I would recommend then is to contact us through RCND, and then we would be able to support individuals to have, if they can't have the conversation themselves, we will support them in having that conversation and advise them perhaps down the grievance process if that was something that the individual felt that we need to do. To be honest with Nikki, my assumption would be that in these circumstances, because the funding is there, it's more of it'll be more of a delay in the payments rather than not having the payments at all. Because of the way in Wales we have the declaration, there is no reason why this shouldn't be done. But again, any concerns, any problems, if you can't do this yourselves, by all means, give us a ring in RCND and we can make sure we get you some support.
Thank you, Kelly. That's really, really helpful. And for Magella, maybe a question about if the practice refuses to provide the pay award, is there anything that members can do there with the health board, primary care division or board?
Yes, thanks, Nikki. If the pay award isn't received, please, and we've already gone via the letter that Kelly has shared, because it is better that you have that conversation with the employer first. Please do get in touch, phone RCN Direct, and hopefully Abby can put that number in the chat box for us, and speak to one of our coordinators there who will advise you of the next steps. And as Kelly has said, the money must be paid or else it'll be clawed back, and we can have those conversations then at that stage.
Lovely, thank you very much. And I'm sure over time, and this is our first, one of our first webinars as a Wales team, and I'm sure over time we will have more. But sometimes pay is not just about pay award, is it? It's about maternity pay or sick pay and things like that. So it would be helpful over time to have from you, and I'm sure, Francis, in your forums you hear people saying these things all the time. You know, over time we'll come out and we'll ask you questions about, you know, what are the other things that are really important to you. You know, pay is important, obviously it is, but what we're hearing in the NHS, and I'm sure same with you, is workload can be an issue, safety of patients can be an issue, and then the things for yourself like your pay and your sick pay and maternity pay and things like that. I don't know, Francis, if there's anything like that that's coming out of the forums that we may want to think about as a team and then be able to engage with our members.
Yeah, absolutely. So the RCN forum, which obviously I'll kind of introduce a bit more in a minute, ongoing is supporting our general practice nurses with fair pay. But as you said, not only just fair pay, but standardization of job descriptions, because I think that's one of the biggest areas, is it's aligning the pay to a job description. Those of us or those of you that are in health board managed practices in Wales, that's maybe a little easier because you're on the Agenda for Change contract, but it's that standardization. And obviously the forum does cover the whole of the UK, so it's making sure that we've got everyone covered.
Oh, that's great. Thank you, Francis. And that leads us, I think, very nicely onto your session here, talking to us about the forums and how people can get involved and what the forums do. And yeah, so please, Francis, it would be really helpful to hear your slides and to look at your slides and hear what you've got to say about the forums.
Well, firstly, thank you for inviting me to the webinar. This is my first RCN gig within the forum, so it was great to catch up with Kelly to understand what the RCN are doing for our members across the UK, but especially for Wales, as we do have those mild idiosyncrasies, and it's nice to have that Welsh representation. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Frances Baverstock. I have been nursing for over 23 years. 22 of them have been in general practice. So yeah, cut me in the middle, and I'm a general practice nurse through and through. I've worked in England for most of my career, but moved to Wales 5 years ago, 4 weeks before lockdown. So it's been an interesting journey. And obviously I love general practice nursing. I love seeing the patients, and it's great to still be within that career. But what I really like now is representing our general practice nurses across Wales and the UK, and that's certainly where the forum came into that, and really kind of excited me. So what I thought we'd talk about is the forum itself. For those of you that aren't part of the forum, maybe just understanding what we do. So all you need to do is literally go on to the RCN webpage and type in forums, and I believe that link's going to be popped up on the chat now. Thank you. There are many forums with lots of different specialities. I've put here diabetes, pain, leadership. However, we have our own general practice nursing forum, and I'd actually like to say that we are one of the biggest forums across the UK. The idea of the forum is to bring people together. And for those of you that do work in general practice, I certainly experienced this when I first started, is that isolated working conditions. You do feel like you are very much in your own within your practice, and you don't even really know who's down the road. So bringing people together is really one of the biggest things that the forum does. Having that opportunity to network and keep yourself up to date, but also to explore where you might like to go further within your career. There are lots of opportunities within general practice nursing, and it's fantastic. You can be a very clinical general practice nurse and really grow with those clinical skills, but there are also opportunities to become more strategic, to think more about the bigger picture, and as we all know, our nursing within general practice is integral to the whole of the NHS. They can't do without us. So what we would, let me just get my next slide up. Okay, thank you. So the link there is for the General Practice Nursing Forum, and as you can see, we've got nearly 1,000 members. And I wrote these slides end of last week. I've just looked back onto the page now, and we've got 9,843 members. So we are growing every single day. What the forum does is, as I said there, raise the profile of general practice nurses. We can influence health policy, we can share best practice. And for those of you on the Facebook page, if you're into social media, the Facebook page is a very active page that really does give support to all nurses out there. No question is silly, because all those questions, if they've been put on there, someone's thought of it before. And I really love the way that the nurses get together as a team across the UK to really support that person who's got a question or a query, to really support our fellow nurses. So if you're not on the Facebook page, do get yourself in. It is a closed group, and it is admin, so kind of strictly administrated by the actual General Practice Nurse Forum. So you know, we do make sure that everything on there is correct. So it's a safe space that you can certainly navigate yourself around. Right, okay. So another part of the forum, what it does is hold monthly webinars. Obviously, we've got our webinar today talking about pay, but we also hold one once a month. What I noticed from joining, watching the webinars, is they're very England based. So it would be great to have more people from Wales representing onto those monthly webinars. The great thing about these, as this one is today, they are all recorded. Thank you. I've got all the dates up there in front of you. So I do appreciate it's not always that easy to find time to watch them during the working day. However, as I said, they are recorded. Every 2 meetings, there is a joint meeting with community nurses and practice nurses, again, just to build those bridges, create collaborative working. And we try to pick hot topics so that they stay relevant to you, so you can watch them. If very shortly, the forum will be putting out a quick questionnaire, and the questionnaire is just to really ask you, were you aware of these webinars that are on monthly, and if the time, the date is okay for you. So obviously we're trying to make sure that these webinars are accessible to as many people as possible. So yeah, if you could keep your eyes out for that webinar, or certainly the questionnaire, that would be really good. The more people we get to answer, the better we can make sure that we meet the needs of our general practice nursing population. So I thought it would be nice to talk a little bit about me and how I became one of the members of the forum. So as I said, I work for Betsy Cadwallader, and I've been a general practice nurse for most of my career in nursing. But what happened quite recently, actually about 3.5 years ago, is that I stumbled across the Florence Nightingale Scholarship, and I thought, oh, I'll give that a go. And it was quite a linchpin into turning me into much more of a confident nurse. So Nursing in Practice did a little article about me, and I think really I brought it to this platform to kind of share how we all have a voice, and that we are very worthy, and we should be listened to. And I think that segues really well into what Kelly was saying about pay. You know, we are part of this team, and we do certainly deserve that 6% pay rise. And actually, is it a pay rise? Actually, it's fair pay. So, you know, we all deserve that fair pay to keep in with all of our colleagues, our nursing colleagues. So this scholarship that I went on, it was quite inspirational to meet lots of different nurses, but to also be the first general practice nurse to have a scholarship. I didn't know that at the time. I didn't realise quite how life-changing, certainly career-changing it would be. So a little pitch on the side here, look out for these scholarships, look out for these opportunities. They are open to people who don't work for health boards. They are open for GMS practices. So do look out for them, because they will change how you kind of look at yourself as a leader, and how you can lead yourself, but also lead others. So once I completed the scholarship, I thought, oh, what do I do next? And again, I do stumble across things. I stumbled across the forum, and I noticed that they were looking for new members. When I keep talking about the forum, as I said, we've got over 9,000 members. That's the opportunity for everyone to join in. But actually, there's a group of us, a team. There's 7 of us across the country that are that kind of integral team. So that was what the opportunity that I had to basically put my application forward, be interviewed, and I was successful in joining this team of 7. So that's where I am now, and I wanted to share my kind of what I've learned in my leadership journey since doing the scholarship and joining the forum, because I want to hopefully inspire the nurses to just push that glass ceiling just that little bit harder, shout a bit louder, because as I've put here, and this is something that I try and tell myself all the time, is that I deserve to be heard, and certainly all of you deserve to be heard as well. Own your space as a nurse. You are integral in general practice. We are the linchpins of general practice and primary care, and certainly all the feedback we get from our patients, we know that that is the case. So you certainly do deserve to be heard. But also question those established norms. We're all very good at saying, but we've always done it like this. That doesn't mean we should continue to do it like this. And obviously the RCN is there to help you to question those norms when you do feel that you're maybe not being supported in the way you think you should be. And a lot of your health boards will have the networks that you can discuss things with as well, clinical supervision. There's all those things that tap into. You certainly are valued, and you should be part of that bigger picture. And another kind of message that I give myself and to others is that you can influence up as well as down. So what I mean by that is that you've got the ability to influence and inspire others. Those student nurses that are thinking that they'd like to come into general practice, be the assistant, that helper to those people, your colleagues that aren't getting the pay award in different practices, but also influence up. So for example, as I've done, taken the brave step to put myself forward to be as part of that RCN forum team. So those are my own leadership messages that hopefully are useful, but also I'd like to kind of put the offer out to everyone listening to this webinar today to kind of say, what can you do? What can you do as a general practice nurse for the RCN and for yourself and your practice? A big message that I've got recently is the lovely Brené Brown. Do check her out on YouTube or TED Talks. But one of the big things she says is a poem from Teddy Roosevelt, and it says, it's called Be Brave, and it's all about stepping into the arena and giving it a go. So one of my big messages is do give it a go. As Kelly said, do question those norms. You've got that letter. Do utilise those skills, but again, use the RCN if you are having issues with your pay. Massive message here: resist the temptation to lower your status. You are not just a nurse. You are so much more. So remind yourself of that. Certainly print it out, put it as a mantra on your screen. Resist the temptation to lower your status. You are so much more than just a nurse. Stay curious. Why are we doing it this way? Why shouldn't we be doing it a different way? There's so many, we can really certainly look at how we can make our workplace better, but also our care better. We are always going to fall off the pedestal sometimes, and embrace the failure, learn from it. Yeah, I think the other two are quite self-explanatory. I could chat about all this all day. I don't want to take up all the time, but please be that person that continues to inspire others and shout about general practice nursing and what an amazing career it is. And hopefully, with the help of the RCN and the forum, we can get some better standardisation. And as Nikki said earlier, it isn't just about the 6% pay, it is about our terms and conditions as well. And I certainly see that a lot, you know, student nurses coming into general practice, and maybe they are at that age where they're thinking that they might like to start a family, and actually, do they want to go to a GMS practice? Are they going to feel able to have a decent amount of maternity leave? Myself, with my second child, I couldn't afford to have more than 5 weeks off work. I went back to work when my baby was 5 weeks old because I couldn't manage on statutory maternity pay. So I hear it and I see it. It's not that easy. So as I said, you know, as a forum, we're fighting for those standardisation of terms and conditions, and as well as the pay. Okay, so the last thing I just wanted to speak about is what the forum can do for you. A little analogy here about the ants. I was thinking about, if any of you are Disney fans, maybe more traditional Disney fans, not that traditional, but I think of Bug's Life, and I think about the ants, and they all stand up against the grasshoppers. Those of you that get it will know it. And you know, one ant isn't that powerful, but actually when you all stand together, you are a big powerful force. And that is what all the forum is about, being that one voice but representing all. And that is certainly our aim within the forum, is to represent everyone. We really value your thoughts, your ideas. You know, there's 7 of us within the team. So if you've got something, you've got an idea, or we're all kind of like, I really want to move this forward and I don't know how, please do get in touch with us. We'd love to hear your ideas, because we want to represent you. I want to represent all of you from Wales, but also, you know, we want to represent everyone across the UK. So if you think of something but you wouldn't know where to start, give us a shout, and then collectively we've got more of a voice. So yeah, do let me know about that. And then the last thing that is quite exciting for me now is that I've become a voting member, so I get to go to Congress. Which is thankfully in Liverpool this year, so not so far for me to travel from North Wales. I feel completely out of my comfort zone, but as again, you know, I'm going to stay curious and use my mantras: be brave, step into the arena. I will be voting, and I'll be voting on behalf of all of you. So do take a look at the Congress list of what everyone's voting for, and if you see something you think that really resonates with me, I'd love Francis to support me with that or vote for me, then please let me know. I want to represent everyone and not just what I think. One thing that is open to everyone, and I was certainly not aware of this, is that you can apply to become a voting member. And each forum, so all those different forums that I talked about, have places for you to be a voting member. So if you wanted to do that in 2026, you know, do keep your ears to the ground, keep your space on social media, and look that you can actually vote. Put an application in to be a voting member. You can also attend the Congress this year as well, and all the links are available on the RCN webpage. So yeah, Congress is there, utilise it. Thank you for putting up the link. And the last thing about the forum, as I said, we've got 7 members. I started in January. Very green around the ears, certainly still learning how the forum works and how we can represent our members. But our lovely chair, Katie Smith, is coming to the end of her term. So we will be looking for new members as of May 2025. So if you fancy giving it a go, be brave, step into the arena, give it a go. It really wasn't as frightening as you think it would be. I actually did my interview on my phone because it's the only IT access I had. It was lovely. You know, we're not there to discourage, we're there to encourage. And we really want members that are passionate about general practice nursing to be that voice for our whole nursing population. I think that is the end of my slides. I'm sure you're all bored of hearing me now, but if you have any questions, please do give them a go.
Lovely, thank you, Frances, and that was such an inspirational presentation tonight. And you know, I think, you know, some of the slides and the things about what people can do, and you know, having your voice heard, and you know, about imposter syndrome, we all feel that. And actually, you know, that's really good advice for any nurse out there at the moment. So I might steal with pride that
Steal away.
when I'm doing maybe my next webinar, I might be stealing that. So and just to you know, just so that people know, and Abigail has put the link to Congress in the chat. Now, I was an RCN member for 31 years before I became a staff member, and I'd never been to Congress. I didn't really know what Congress was. Congress is our biggest meeting of the year of our members. We normally get about 3,000 members attending, and there is some ability to watch it online as well. So if you're unable to attend, then you're able to watch it online and watch the debates. So what happens with Congress is that branches of which you will be a member of, and if you're not quite sure which branch you're on, then you can find that on the RCN Wales website. Branches can put forward either resolutions, so they are issues that members feel are really strong for us to take forward as a work issue for the next year. These are all put forward by the branches, and certain ones are chosen because, you know, usually we get about 50-60 applications, and we need to whittle that down because Congress is only a week long. So we have resolutions which members like Frances are going to be able to vote on, whether that is something that members feel is important for RCN to concentrate on next year, or whether it's not. And we've got matters for discussion, which don't get voted on, but are just really good matters for discussion. And often council may then decide that that's something that would be important for the organisation to take forward that year. So it's really the sort of bedrock of, you know, leading the strategic direction of the organisation. And that happens every year in varied places. You are able to, as Frances has said, unfortunately, it's closed for this year, but you are able to get funded voting, so you can put yourself forward for a funded voting place as part of your branch, and that means that your accommodation, your travel is all covered, and in fact you're able to vote. So it's well worth having a look. And if you've got a chance, you know, maybe through the website, have a look at Congress this year, have a look at the discussions, have a look at the resolutions, and then maybe you might say, well, actually next year I'd really love to be part of that, because, you know, it's just amazing meeting with nurses from all across the UK and just networking and talking, and the passion that is in that room is phenomenal. So yeah, thank you, Frances, for bringing that up. I can't see any questions at the moment for Frances coming in. I'm just double checking on the chat as well. Nothing at the moment. It's so comprehensive. I think you covered everything actually. So but you know, and the webinars would be great for people to start getting involved and just seeing what RCN's about, what we're doing, what we can do for you, and what you can do for yourself, which really leads me nicely into our last session with Magella. And Magella's going to talk about how you can get your voice heard.
Thanks, Nikki. I'm Magella, and along with Pam's here with us this evening as well. I'm an independent sector and community advisor, so we support you out in the GP practices as well, whether you're working in the independent sector, as most of the GP practices in Wales are, or in the NHS. And as the RCN is a member-led organisation, so we need you to communicate with us before we can act on your behalf. With that in mind, the Senedd Health and Social Care Committee is currently undertaking an inquiry into the future of general practice in Wales, and we need to hear your voice. The RCN in Wales will submit evidence as part of the inquiry, and it will be celebrating the work of GP nurses, general practice nurses in Wales. And we'll outline the huge range of assessments that you undertake, the interventions that you undertake, and we'll make the point that primary care nursing presents a credible solution to upscale both health prevention and long-term condition optimisation agendas. You're perfectly positioned for that. You're perfectly positioned for improving access and supporting the care closer to home agenda, and generally improving the quality of life for people of Wales. And so we do need you to get in touch. It's important that you as individuals submit evidence so that we can amplify that voice and get the message right. So to influence that manifesto in the future, we have sent out a survey via email. So please do respond to that. Do check your junk mail just in case it's gone in there. And in addition to that, just a reminder, or you may not have heard of them, if you need to have conversations in the workplace generally about staffing generally, please do make use of the RCN nursing workforce standards. There's also a question in there as well about how to handle conversations about pay. So if you want a bit of a lead up to the letter, to submitting a letter to your employer if the pay award isn't satisfied, do have a look at the nursing workforce standards to help you develop those discussions, and Abby's going to share that for us. And if needs be, do please get in touch with myself or Pam, and we can take you through the workforce standards and help you implement them. You don't have to implement the whole package. You can pull out the questionnaire that suits you. They're based and they do reflect the Safe Staffing Act in Wales. Because there isn't a Safe Staffing Act across the rest of the UK, the RCN workforce standards reflect those and help those countries establish those there. But we can use them in other departments here in Wales too. So I hope that's helpful, and we hope to hear from you.
Lovely. Thank you, Magella. That's really, really helpful. So that sort of brings us to a bit of a conclusion of our meeting today. Just to remind you that if you've got any issues in work that you're concerned about, that you're personally experiencing, you can always ring RCN Direct. The number is on the website, and you can use there's a chat bot, and there's an email address that you can use. So if there's any issues that you're having in work, please reach out, speak to RCN Direct, and then they can either signpost you and talk you through what you can do, or they might refer it to us in RCN Wales if a case is needed. So we're always here for you, and we'd love to hear more from you in terms of the amazing practice and the improvements in practice you're doing, because our communications team, Tracy's on the call, is always looking for people to spotlight and do some Q&A on if you're really taking practice forward in your practice, or if you've got just want to celebrate nursing. We're always looking for people to come along and share their story, which is really important. So I can't see any other questions. So all that's really left for me to say is thank you. Oh, Kelly, you wanted to come in.
I do, and I'm really sorry for jumping in last minute, Nikki, but it's something I just thought of that I hadn't put in for the webinar, so apologies. But just something that is a bit of an ask really for the members that are on here and anybody listens afterwards. One of the most important things that we need to do right now is update your details. Many of our members' details, we'll have sometimes criticism, and sometimes rightly so, but other times it'll be we don't hear enough from the RCN, or we haven't had emails, etc. We don't get messaging. It's really important that our members update their details, tell us where they work, tell us if they've changed the address, tell us if they've changed their phone number, so we can actually contact you with the relevant information. As we said, majority of our members are in private practice, in independent practices, independent partners, not within the agenda for change. We really need to make sure we are giving our members the right information when it comes out. So we want to make sure it's tailored for them. So if you send an email out regarding GPNs, we're sending it to the GPNs and not to nurses that are working in the Heath Hospital or in Heath Petawba Hospital, etc. It needs to be accurate. So if you can this evening or tomorrow, update your details, tell us where you work, any changes to your name, your surname, your phone number, update that so we can really have good information, so we can share with you then what is relevant. And it's important that we get the right information. So thank you, Nikki. That was just the last thing I just wanted to raise.
No, thank you very much, and a really good point to raise. And just in case you're not sure, if you go on the RCN website and go into my RCN, that's how you go in and change your details. If you do get problems with any IT issues, because these things happen, then you can always ring into RCN Direct and they will update your details over the phone. But it's really easy to do by my RCN. So all I've got to say now is thank you so much for attending this evening. I'm hoping you've had a lot of information. You're now inspired and motivated to go and join the forum, to have a look at the Facebook pages, and to maybe go to another one of the webinars. We will be following these up with some webinars in Wales as well, and keeping you informed with what's going on in Wales. So do feel free to contact us, to talk about anything and what matters to you, because that's what we need to be working on, what matters to you. So just to say thank you, and have a lovely evening. Go and relax, and catch you again. Bye now.
Thanks, everyone.